Hi, I'm Trisha at Club Scrap and welcome to the Cabana Card Workshop. We are going to be making ourselves a dozen beautiful cards today just from 12 by 12 paper, some embellishments, ribbons, and this wonderful process we call assembly line card making. It's going to be so much fun. Grab your trimmer and your instructions. Let's get started. I'll set these finished card samples aside, and here I've got just the paper isolated from my kit, and I've set aside the ribbon, embellishments, and envelopes. We will be using those envelopes for sure during our time together. And now I'm going to take my accordion pocket file. I'll set this lip of the file underneath my trimmer. Now, if you don't have an accordion pocket file, don't let it stop you from taking this class. It's just going to keep us organized by isolating all the materials we need for each set of cards into an individual pocket. So just keep 3 separate piles if you have to, A, B, and C. The advantage of this is it just takes up a lot less space because sometimes tabletop space comes at a premium, right? So I'm going to have that all set up. I've got my Fiskars Guillotine trimmer. I did treat myself to a new trimmer this month because my other one has been in use for about a decade and the lines and columns were starting to really wear off. The blade was still sharp as ever. It is a self-sharpening blade, which I love. Nothing worse than cutting paper with a dull blade. So let's take our paper. We're going to put it into the order that we'll trim it. So I like to hold it upright while I search. And we're going to begin with a sheet of the gold. And then there are 3 flavors of blue in this kit, a dark blue, a medium blue, and a light blue. So the best way to determine what they are is just to compare. So dark, medium, light, you can see there. I'll grab 1 dark, 1 medium, and 1 light. Let's repeat that assortment. So grab another gold, a dark blue, a medium blue, and a light blue. There should be 1 sheet of white, and make sure that it's plain white on both sides. Then we'll go to the prints. So grab both of the prints, put them face down. Lastly, we have our Cutaparts. So the first one I want you to find, and it might be like facing away from you, just to be mindful of that, is these narrow strips of artwork. And then we have this one that has a lot of different sentiments on the right edge. I'm trying something different this month, just giving it a go, where you can mix and match your preferred sentiments for the cards that you think you need the most of. You can use my recommended pairings or just, fly on your own. I have a lot of great options for you this month. So I'm flipping that paper stack back over to the gold on top, and step 1 of the instructions, we're going to trim 4 papers the same way. So I'm taking this gold paper here and I'm just going to hold it by an edge to find the grain direction of the paper. So if I hold it by this edge and wiggle it, it's quite noisy and stiff. But if I rotate to a neighboring edge, it flops much more easily. So I want to put the paper in my trimmer so it flops most easily from the top to the bottom of the trimmer. Okay. Then I'm going to repeat for a second sheet. I'm going to take the dark blue and check the grain direction here as well. So this is stiff and noisy, quiet and floppy. And if I just push it in, it should bend easily this way. Okay, and then drop it down. If you're new to this, the instructions have a little arrow right there. I'm not sure if you can see the arrow here, but that's the arrow you're looking for, and that tells you which way the paper should bend most easily. Now, if I'm going too fast in general, remember that you can adjust your playback speed right in YouTube. Just pick 0.75 and that'll really slow me down. So let's take both sheets of paper if you're comfortable. Otherwise, trim 1 at a time and just rewind. And our first cut is all the way at 11 3/4. That's way over here, 1 column before the 12. Push down on that clear bar to stabilize the paper and give it a go. Then I want you to slide down to 6 1/4. So that's 6 plus 1 column to the left with 2 sheets in there plus that heavy dark blue. Make sure you're stabilizing on that bar before you bring the blade down. Now rotate this 6 1/4 inch piece so it's horizontal. We'll cut at 11, 10, 9, and then 8 3/4. So that takes off just a little tiny piece. These two pieces are going to grow up to become really cool card bases. We're going to set them aside to be scored. Don't file them right now. And then you do have this real narrow piece that fell. Both of those little guys, those are scraps. Then you have this whole stack of little strips. They actually need to be trimmed, and I'm just going to be bold and brave right now and just stack them all together at the 6-inch mark and just lob off all those little pieces. They're pretty clean. Maybe I would do half as many next time. Okay, there will be a next time. So yeah, however you do it, if you do it 3 at a time, 2 at a time, 1 at a time, don't think I would do it 1 at a time. All of them go in pocket B, and they're now 6 inches wide. We've created a tiny little pile of itty bitty scraps that you can just get rid of. And now we have this other larger piece to the right of our trimmer. We're going to cut this horizontally at 11.5 and 8.5. Now these two pieces once again become card bases. Set them aside. Then you have this narrow rectangle. We're going to trim this one at 4.25 and plop this panel into pocket A. All the other pieces then that remain are scraps, so set those aside. We get to do that one more time with 2 more sheets of paper. So check the medium blue, make sure it dips easily top to bottom, and then it's pretty obvious with these sheets. They both want to curve this way, not this way. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's trim at 11.75 and 6.25. Rotate and cut at 11, 10, 9, and then 8.75. Taking off that little guy. Set him aside to be scored, and then you got your 2 tiny little strips. Those are scraps. I'm just going to take 2. I'll take 3. How about that? 3 at a time, real neatly together, and then cut at 6. These go into pocket B. I have a very special plan for them. And then same for the other stack of 3. We'll cut it at 6. Pocket B. And then you can eliminate all those little bitty pieces. Okay, this larger piece we'll trim at 11.5, 8.5. Set these 2 pieces aside to be scored, and then the rectangle will trim at 4.25. I have a plan for every piece for filing. Pocket A on this, and then the remaining pieces can be scrapped. And now we're moving on to a brand new cutting diagram. So let's take the gold. We're gonna check for grain, same story. We want it dipping top to bottom. That's also indicated on the diagram with the arrow. So we'll do these 2 colors at the same time, the gold and the dark blue, if you feel comfortable. Once again, we do need to start out at 11.75 to take off just that little strip. And then 8.5. Stabilize each time. Rotate that 8.5-inch piece. We'll cut at 11.25, 10.25, and 7. Now this large piece becomes another card base, both of them. We'll take the larger rectangle and trim at 8.25. This goes into pocket C, and then you have 2 sets of strips. They're very narrow, and they both get trimmed at 8. So we have some more strips. 8 on this one. And then we have the skinnier ones. We'll trim also at 8. Now, if you can't see where the 8 is, you can bring it down a little lower on your trimmer. And then file both of these into pocket C. We'll get rid of our little sniglets. That's what I like to call those. Pieces not used. And then we have this long strip. Got quite a bit of interesting movement here, so just bear with me. We'll start out at 11.25, 9, 6.75, and 4.5. this guy, pocket A. And then we have 3 sets of little rectangles. Each one is going to be trimmed into a square. So let's make that 2 1/4 horizontal. And I'm just going to try to do all 4 of these at 2 1/4. There we go. We got a whole bunch of squares, 2 1/4. Place them in pocket C. And then you've got these long strips. I mean, you could incorporate these if you want. And then some little pieces we're not using. Grab the remaining colors here. We've got our medium blue, bending easily top to bottom with that grain direction. Same with the light blue. Our first cut is a repeat of the last formula. So 11 3/4 and 8 1/2. Rotate and trim at 11 1/4, 10 1/4, and 7. This becomes a card. We're going to score it. Then we'll take the rectangle that's pretty large and trim it at 8 1/4. Pocket C, and we have these little sniglets. And then we have our wider strips that we'll trim at 8. The smaller pair will trim at 8. We could probably have done those all at once. You know me, I was trying to find a shortcut. And then all 4 of these land in pocket C. Got some little scrappies. We'll get those out of the way. And then we'll grab this strip here, cutting at 11 1/4. 9. 6 3/4. 4 1/2. This bad boy, pocket A. And then you've got all these rectangles. I'm going to take, well, let's do it half and half. 3 of these little rectangles and turn them into squares by trimming at 2 1/4. And then I'll take the other 3 and trim them at 2 1/4. And then all of these squares go in pocket C with our scraps being set aside. Okay, now I'm going to go grab my score pal. Without relocating my trimmer, I'm going to place my score pal just on top of it, and I'm going to test my grain direction of the white sheet of paper. Definitely is quieter and more droopy this way, and I want to place it that way into the score pal so it moves easily like this. Drop it in, and we're going to take something that we score with. I use a metal tipped stylus, and I'm scoring that at 6 inches. Set the score pal aside for now, and then we're going to turn the paper so that we're going to be cutting through the score lines. Let's trim this at 9. Now remember, when I cut, I'm going to cut through the score line, and then go down to 6, and then 3. By doing it this way, we were able to just score one time for 4 pieces instead of 4 pieces each time. So that's, again, me finding it a little shortcut. All 4 of those scored pieces go in pocket B. Now we have to trim the printed paper. Again, this is text weight. Make sure you take only 1 sheet of the text weight and leave the other one to your left. And we'll trim at 8 inches. So 8. This is a nice easy one. Rotate that large 8-inch piece and we'll cut at 9, 6, and 3. Those are the same numbers we scored at earlier. All right, we're going to stack up the 4 panels and place them in pocket C. Take the other larger strip. This will cut at 11, 8 1/4. So it's 8 plus 1 column to the left, 5 1/2, and 2 3/4. You can gather up all the pieces. There's going to be a little scrap plus 4 panels the same size. The panels go to pocket A, and then this little guy is a scrap. We'll take the other print. Let's trim this at 11 1/2. And by the way, I didn't check grain direction. We're not going to be folding this paper, so it doesn't matter. So 11 and a half, 5 3/4, and then we're going to do a ton, and I mean a ton, of cuts. Those cuts are going to be every 3/4 of an inch. So I like to do it, just go 1, 2, 3. Just keep moving down the columns, but I'll give you the measurements. So it's 11 1/4, 10 and a half, 9 3/4, 9. By the way, we're going to stop when we hit 3. So then we got 8 1/4, 7 and a half, 6 3/4, 6, 5 1/4, 4 and a half, 3 3/4, 3. Guess what? I didn't use a 3-inch piece. I'm going to set that aside. And then all of these strips belong in pocket B. Bravo. Then we have this wider strip we'll cut at 11, 8 1/4, 5 and a half, 2 3/4. Gathering up the panels that are the same for pocket B, bravo, we will be left with this narrow strip and then another shorter strip. Those are scraps. Next, we're moving on to our cut-aparts, and these will have little writing on the outside edge, and so you'll be taking that off. But the goal is here to align the hash mark on the edge with the edge of the blade, the outside edge of this blade right here that you can see. But the paper right now is too large for me to see it, so I'm just going to aim for near that mark, and then I'm going to clean up that cut on my final rotation. So now I'm rotating, and indeed I can see where that hash mark is, both at the bottom and the top. I'll rotate again. Try to get these cuts as accurate as you can. Don't be sloppy about it. And then we're going to rotate. Now I can look over at my 12 on this rotation, and yes, everything lines up beautifully. If you need your flashlight to see, make sure you're in a well-lit area. And then my last little cleanup cut where I started. That leaves me with all these little pieces. I'm just going to pitch those. And when we start trimming these cut-aparts, if you're looking at the instructions, we're on step 6, you can see the positioning of the cut-apart is such that it says the words, "You are all kinds of amazing," on the right. And if we line up at 9 inches, we should be separating out that strip without cutting through artwork. That's always the goal. Then 7. The goal is to not cut through the art. And then 5. Rotate. And then we'll trim this at 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. All right, so gather the 4 pieces that just have artwork on them. They all go in pocket C. And they're going to have this little, these sets of sentiments on these strips. These are going to be trimmed at every inch. So we start out at 5. That was the end. Then 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's just grab the other piece. 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm doing something a little different this month because some of you have been saying, I need sympathy, I need anniversary, I need more birthdays, I have too many birthdays, I need a thank you card, I need a general card, I need a congratulations card. So I'm giving you all these sentiment options, and you get to pick whatever you want to go inside most of your cards. Okay, now we have 2 strips that are the same. I'm just going to be brave. Well, no, let's do them one at a time. It should say hip hip hooray on the left, and we're going to go every 2 inches. So 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. All of these pocket C. I'll grab the other one. 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. All of these go in pocket C, Charlie. Okay, then we have our final strip from this one. We're going to trim at 9. You've done this before. 6 and 3. Gathering these up for pocket B, Bravo. Our final cut apart sheet, we are there. We're going to just shave off that little end as close as we feel comfortable and then rotate so we can see the blade. Clean that up on your final. Now take as much time as you need for this. Don't be afraid to just pause or take a break. After we're done with trimming the cut aparts is a nice time to take a break as well if you need it. Just kind of make sure your shoulders aren't up in your ears with tension. And my last rotation here, I'll cut again at the 12 to clean that up nicely. The margins are pretty narrow on those sentiments, so it's good if you can be accurate. Starting again from this position with all the sentiments on your right, let's start at 10. And then slide to 5 3/4. Rotate, cut at 11 so that little strip falls from the end. Then 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. So you'll take up the pieces that are all the same size, those art panels for pocket B. This little piece, I think I used it in card set C. That'll be at your discretion if you want to incorporate some of those things. This next strip, we're going to cut at 9. Notice there's no text on this. It's just artwork. 6 and then 3. And all of these pieces go into pocket A. And finally, you've got another strip of all kinds of sentiments here. So we'll start every inch. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, I bet you know the next one. 1. So even when you're cutting at 1 on this big trimmer, you've got that little bar that really, really helps. So again, you have all of these sentiment options for your choice, whatever you need the most of. I'm going to lock my trimmer blade. So at this point, I'll get rid of my trimmer. We need to grab our score pal once again. So remember, we did score that one sheet of white, but we have all the card bases to take care of next. So we have this whole pile of things we'd set aside to be scored, and I'm going to go back to page 1, and these two, step 1 and 2, tell me where things need to be scored. So for our first one, the piece of paper should measure 7 by 8 1/2. I want you to put it vertically into the score pal so you can read the 7 here, and then so that would be portrait style or vertically. We're going to score it in half at 3 1/2. Then I'm going to add the medium blue here, make sure it says 7 up here and score at 3 1/2. Then we'll do the dark blue at 3 1/2. And finally the gold at 3 1/2. Again, those are all vertical, and we're going to place these in pocket C. Next up, we have a much smaller piece. This is going to be a nice basic card. So if you put it in horizontally into the score pal, it's going to be folded in half. And you'll find the 8 1/2 over here and the 5 1/2 here, and score it 4 1/4. On this particular score pal, I will leave a link for it below if you need one. I highly recommend this one. There's an asterisk at the 4 1/4. You should find the light blue and the medium blue here. Then I'm going to skip the next two because those are a different size, and I should find a dark blue I can score at 4 1/4 and the gold at 4 1/4. And these 4 pieces go into pocket A, apple. Then I've got my remaining pieces. They're going to go in horizontally, and you should see an 8 3/4 here and a 6 1/4 there. Our numbers are 4 1/2, 5 3/4, 7, and 8 1/4. Okay, we're gonna do that with all of these. So just slide the next one in there horizontally. 4 1/2, 5 3/4, 7, and 8 1/4. I'll give you the numbers each time. They're not exactly easy. 4 1/2, 5 3/4, 7, 8 1/4. One more with the gold. 4 1/2, 5 3/4, 7, 8 1/4. That's your final score. I will take all of these pieces and place them in pocket B. Bravo. And an actual bravo. Way to go, getting all of that done. I realized it was a lot of cutting. It was a lot of scoring, a lot of thinking. But just think about it. You made everything you need for 12 cards. All you have to do now is assemble. So the plan is I'm going to take you through each card. We'll deal out all the pieces and like interchange all the colors. It's probably my favorite part of the whole process. And then when we're done, I'm going to make one of each of the 3 card styles because they're all created the same way. They're all made exactly the same way. So just once you have the one down, you can make the others now or you can make them later. Either way, you're going to have a sample and you're going to have this video to return to if you need it. Let's get started with set A. You can go ahead and empty the pocket, and if you want, you can fold the card bases in half on the score lines. I just want to give you one important tip before you do that. So I'm emptying pocket A, and the score lines, I just flip the whole pile over so that you can feel the score line. Okay, then when I fold in half, that bump of the score is buried on the inside of the fold. So that's a good mnemonic, a good way to remember, bury the bump. So I feel the bump, not the indentation. The indentation goes on the outside of the card. And every time I teach classes, live workshops, I have students in the class who've been making cards for maybe decades even, who thought it was the other way around. So basically you've been folding your cards inside out. I'd rather do that than wear my shirt inside out though. But we want to make sure that those score lines are in the right spot inside of the fold. I'm also going to turn in my instructions to page 3, and that shows a picture of all the cards. So I'm going to kind of try to follow what the instructions say as far as color. You don't have to do these colors, color combinations, but it's just easier if I do what the instructions show. So I'll start out with a yellow or a gold card. And then the light blue is going to be horizontal. Then just to set ourselves up, we'll do a vertical dark blue and a vertical medium blue. Now we're going to, of the remaining panels that we have here, there's different sizes. I'll take the largest set of panels and we'll put a medium blue on the yellow, or gold. I keep saying yellow. It is yellow. And then gold on the light blue, and then light blue here and dark blue there. Next up, we will add a dark blue, a medium, a medium blue, a gold, and a light blue. How cool is that? Each card receives a printed panel, and then each card is going to, from your goodie pile, if you still have that handy, grab the tags. Each one gets one of those cute little tags. And then the horizontal cards receive an inner image artwork with horizontally oriented art, and then these get the vertical. Now, you do not have to make the sentiment pairings that I'm choosing, okay? I'm just going to go with what was in the instructions, but if you just only want to make birthday cards, you pretty much have that option. My first card says happy retirement. So let's just go with that again. I'm going to make another retirement card. So just sift through the sentiments, spread them out, shop around, see what you want. And I'm going to go with happy retirement. And on the inside, mine's going to say rest, relax, repeat. For this one, I'll do a let's celebrate. And on the inside, I send out a lot of anniversary cards, by the way. So I'm going to go with happy anniversary. And the reason I send out all those anniversary cards is whenever I attend a wedding, I put it in my digital calendar as a recurring event. So that way, Any wedding I've attended, I try to remember to send an anniversary card. I'm not perfect in that department, but I do try because I think anniversaries are harder than birthdays sometimes and are worth an acknowledgement. And people really appreciate having their anniversary remembered by someone other than their spouse. Okay, this next one we're going with sympathy. I do tend to use a lot of sympathy cards, so I'm going to go with sincere sympathy and combine that with a so very sorry. And then I'm going to do another sympathy card. And you don't have to put any sentiment on the inside if you don't want to, but I'm going to add the thinking of you to this one. Okay, so that way each one has a nice sentiment. Now, in your kit, you received a set of envelopes. I'm going to take the smallest size envelope and put card number 4, which was the medium blue, and all of its pieces into the envelope so that I can go back and assemble those once I have my prototype, which is going to be this cute yellow card here, the retirement card. So these 3 are ready to go, and when you just copy this one. So I'll set aside the sentiments here. I think the tag is under there. Yes. Okay. So the first thing we can do is adhere the decorative panel, the text weight panel, to the dark blue. I'm eyeballing. Oh, it's a little scary. Many times I use my grid ruler, as you know. Then I will nest this. Now don't add this to the card base quite yet. We have some stuff to do. I'm going to take the happy retirement and just adhere this to the tag with the reinforcement on my left. Then I'll take some of this beautiful double-faced gold satin ribbon that came in your kit, and I'm going to just trim off enough to thread through the tag, if it were here, and make its way around to the back of the panel. So I need that. I need to double that. I'll grab some fabric scissors. I like to use fabric scissors. And then all I'm going to do is just thread this through the hole. I got plenty of tail here to wrap around when I'm ready, but I want to have this attached so I can wrap this around to the back. So I'm just going to turn this over, and I kind of want the tag sort of peeking past the edge of the panels. And then I have these awesome little foam adhesive circles. I'm just going to use these and add them to the tag to give this card a little dimension. I'll put a link to those foam adhesive circles in the video description below. We carry these at Club Scrap, and I really like them because I can just, they have the little tail on each shape, so it's easy. So now I'm going to attach it to the panel with it kind of peeking off to the edge. I'll take some cellophane tape, and that's why I wanted this threaded before. I didn't want to mess around with threading it after. I'm going to separate those ends a little bit, wrap them around to the back. I think I can get both of these with the tape. Then I can come in with my adhesive, and this is where I'll probably grab my grid ruler because this is a pretty large reveal. Let's find out what the measurement is. If I center this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like it's a 1/2 inch. So 4 cubes on my ruler from the bottom edge, and 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes from the left and right puts me at center. Nice. Easy peasy. Then I will take my beautiful sentiment artwork. It's just artwork. There's no writing on it. So you could leave it blank if you wanted to just write a note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 5/8 of an inch this time. And I'll add the rest, relax, repeat. I'm going to put that over here. It kind of balances out. Now, we've included an entire sheet of beautiful Dazzles stickers. This, if you know me, you know this is my weakness. I'm going to grab with my tweezers this lovely shell and just place it right there. And then on the inside, there's a small little clam shell. I don't know what the official name of this shell is. I don't know much about shells. I'm going to add that sweet little shell right here. I mean, It doesn't get much better than that. If you want, there's these really cute little like starfish on here too. You could add a couple of those if you want. I mean, the world is your oyster. See what I did there? Okay, so that is your set A card. And oh, there's one other thing I forgot to tell you. Take another piece of this ribbon and just tie a knot into it. I mean, you don't want a real big piece. Just tie the knot pretty close to the edge. And then give it a little snip. And then you can put it right there. Okay, use your favorite adhesive. I really like a glue line for that, or like score tape. I find that, you know, there's no one perfect adhesive. You need different kinds. You could also use Bookbinding Glue even will hold a ribbon. But if you have like cute little piece of score tape, I like to get rid of that backing with my tweezers. It's kind of a pain, but it's a nice low profile. Now it's finished. So if you take this card and you match it up with these 3 envelopes, when you're ready to finish your cards, you can do so, or pause the video and just finish them right now. Next up, we're going to grab our accordion pocket file or find the pile labeled B, card set B, and just empty it. Always check to make sure nothing's left behind. And we'll turn to page 4 in our instructions. And we're gonna make a really cool card structure. It's way easier than it looks. You're going to love it. I think maybe we'll take our white pieces and just fold these in half. Yeah, like that. Line up those corners really nice. And remember where the score line bump goes on the inside. I don't think we're going to fold all 4 of the other ones. We'll leave the folding for when we do the card assembly. Just because there's a lot of score lines on them and we don't want them interfering with us here, with our work. Okay, so I've got pieces of all sorts of sizes, lots of little strips, and our card bases. Let's begin with yellow. I'll put that up here. And then we'll go to the dark blue. And I think I'm gonna face them like this way so we can fit on our screen. And then we'll do the medium blue and a light blue. That should work. I got kind of a mess going on here. My apologies. Okay, then each one of these cards will receive the folded white. And then let's go to the innie, I would call this. We'll put these palapas on the bottom here. Oh, no, palapa on the top, a palapa on the bottom. It doesn't matter. Bottom, top, top, bottom. However, I'm just trying to follow the images. Okay, then we have all of these strips and pieces. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get rid of these big strips first. So each one gets a larger print. Okay, and then each one is going to get 3 of these printed strips that are really narrow. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we have all the colors. You have a choice, and I'm not going to follow what I did because I can't even see. But what I usually did was I took all the colors to the remaining cards. So let's just go with this. This one is yellow. So on this card, I'm going to take a yellow strip, and then yellow, and yellow. Then this card was dark blue, so I'll go next one, dark blue, dark blue, dark blue. And then this card was medium blue, so I'm going to put medium blue here, here, and here. And then we just need, here. This card was light blue, so going back around to the top, distribute with the 3 light blue. That way we have the card base is one color and we have 3 different colors to cover our little miniature box we're gonna make. May sunshine and happiness fill your day. You are all kinds of amazing. You are all kinds of amazing. Sunshine and happiness. So with these are positive greetings, but they don't say happy birthday. They don't say happy anniversary. They don't say anything. You can add what you you can add what you want the card to say. So in this case, I am going to go with happy birthday on this one. I'm going to go with I love you, friend on this one. I'm going to choose let's celebrate on this one, and then happy everything. I mean, talk about neutral. Happy everything. Grab your medium-sized envelope, and I'm going to just take all of the goods from this pile and put it in here. And if you want, we're going to be using these super flat, beautiful charms. Okay, that's number one. I think I'll rotate this, grab my next envelope, slide it all in. You can grab a charm if you want. Maybe you're worried about losing track of it. It's such a beautiful charm. I really do, and I'm not joking. I want to make earrings out of that one. And then let's take these pieces and move them into this envelope. Okay, here we are now with our gold card again. It's a gold card kind of card. I'm going to flip this over so I can find the bumps of all my score lines. They're all on one side. The first one will not fold the card in half, so just don't worry. That's okay. Then I'm going to fold on this next fold. And then the next one. So just every score line, it needs to be folded. And if we hadn't thought about our grain direction, this could have been a very difficult little project. Now, if I were to just take this little 1/2-inch tab here and lay it on the back of the card, it's going to form a box, a square. Okay, so what we need to do, and here's the best way to do it, is it's good to do this when it's flat. So if you fold over the tab, let me give that another little score. And then you fold on the 1, 2, the second line. So I guess this is the first score, the second score, the third score. And then you bring that, glue that there. When it opens up, it'll be a perfect box. Okay, so it's always hard to explain, but easy to do. I guess that's how most things are in life. I'm gonna dispense some glue onto the tab after I have folded it over. So that little tab has the glue on it, okay? And then I'm going to fold over on, this is 1, 2, 3, the third line. Here's the fourth line. So on the third line, I fold and just lay it down flat. I'll burnish it nicely. And look, now I have my perfect little square. When the card mails, it's going to mail like that. So, I mean, that's another way you could do it. I don't know, whatever's easier, as long as you get that going on. I'm also going to take my white panel with the fold at the top. I'm going to put that into this exposed area here. Okay, starting to take shape. If you want, you could even put your sentiment. Well, there is no sentiment. I'm just going to say your artwork, if you want this on the inside. You could put it on the outside if you want. Okay, then we have this printed panel here. You can layer that on top of the white. Do you see how everything fits together? Like someone really cared and figured that all out for you. Okay, now let's take these white strips. I'm going to just apply a little bit to each of them. And nest them onto the panels, and they should center on there nicely, and they do. These are the ones we had to cut. I think it was at 6 inches, and we did them in sets of 3, I think. That first batch, I did them all at once. That was maybe a little too optimistic. Okay, so it doesn't matter what order they go on to all the sides of our little box here. We have 3 sides and 3 panels. So I did a lot of mathematical gymnastics to see how many pieces I could get out of the paper that I had, and this worked really nice. If you wanted, you could make all of these panels the same color instead of changing them, but I kind of like the variation. It's one of my favorite color palettes ever. Okay, that was easy. Now, before we attach him, I'm going to grab my fabric scissors and this pretty blue ribbon, and I'm just going to take a chunk that looks like a trapezoid with angled ends pointing toward each other. And then ribbon has grain too. I'm going to fold those ends in half. I think I used a longer piece of ribbon. That's okay. And then I'll staple this. This is the tiny attacher. I have a link to it in my Amazon affiliate store. I'm doing more and more of that just because, yeah, it's hard to carry all that stuff and to compete with Amazon, is all I'm saying. This one, I think it's 3/8 of an inch from the edge, puts us in the center of this piece. Let me confirm. 1, 2, 3. 3/8 of an inch from the edge puts me at center. Now, when I flip this over, I'm just going to hold it, and I'm going to put my adhesive right where that little pop-up panel is going to be, the second piece here. So the card is flat, and then I'll go about an inch from the top. And now this piece only can stick on the front of that panel, okay? Just on the top of this. And when I close it, this will not extend past the outside edge of the card. The very last thing I'm going to do is apply a little bit of my bookbinding glue to this charm. And just use that to cover the staple. Now, if you wanted to wait until later to add your sentiment, like maybe you just want to keep these handy and go, oh, I just happen to need a retirement card, or I just happen to need, you know, whatever. I wouldn't put sympathy on this. But yeah, I'm going to pick the happy birthday because that's what I use the most of. I think that's true for you, but I know that we all, like, not everyone sends as many anniversary cards as I do. All right, so our happy birthday is in here, room to sign your name, and it will mail perfectly flat, keeping your post office overjoyed. I did not on the previous set show you the other cards that we made together, but I will in this one. So, oh, I added some dazzles in the lower right corner. That's a wonderful option. This is a funny looking snail. So cute. The dazzles are just your choice again, but you can see once I added the glue, those charms don't go anywhere. I love that little effect. They're so beautiful. So that is card set B. Congratulations on making it through that. And remember, you have the remaining 3 envelopes with all the things you need in order to finish the card to match this one. Next up, we're on the finish stretch here. Take everything from that C pocket. You're gonna have a lot of those little squares. Remember all those little 2 1/4 inch squares that we made? We're gonna find a home for all of them in card set C. So empty that pocket completely and let's wrap it up. Okay, we're gonna take these card bases. I think it's a good idea to fold them. So remember to bury the bump. And in this situation, the fact that we paid attention to the grain direction really is critical when you're doing these long, what I would call hot dog folds. If you have been folding against the grain, that paper is going to break, it's going to look nasty, it's going to fight you on the fold. Now granted, scoring it really does help too. Like if you have to make a score in each direction, the fold against the grain still won't look as nice, but it will still function better than if you hadn't scored. Now I'm going to grab in my instructions page 5. It looks like we're beginning with the dark blue, then the medium blue. The vertical is going to be light blue and gold. Let's do it this way. Dark blue, medium blue, light blue, gold. Next, let's grab the largest nesting panel. We'll go dark blue, gold, medium blue, light blue. Next, we have the printed panels. So put 1 on each. Then we'll have our strips. Lots of strips. There are 2 different sizes. One is wider than the other and the length on each strip is the same. I got a mess here. Okay, get that sorted out, Trisha. And so my wider strips, let's see, we'll do yellow, light blue, medium blue, dark blue. Now we're going to add the final color. So we have medium blue, gold, dark blue, and light blue. Oh, and now we can add our squares. So I want all 3 dark blue squares here. I have more squares over in this pile. Let's see, and this next one looks like they're medium blue, the only color not yet featured. And then here we're going to do, I guess it's the same color as the base of the card, and then the gold. Okay, next up, lots and lots of little squares. Here we have sunglasses, flip-flops, and hip hip hooray. We have a hat, an umbrella. It's so cute. And hip hip hooray, today is your day. We've got sunglasses, nifty flip-flops with life is good, sunglasses, a beverage, and life is good. Okay, with these cards, we're gonna grab our final envelopes and just kind of slide them in there. I'm just gonna leave them kind of hanging out just because I'm gonna get right to this. Like, I'm not gonna let these wait. First of all, I'm gonna film another video short. I'm gonna call it a video short where I make one of these cards real fast and narrate that a little bit for you for promotional purposes so people can see how much fun this is. And then I'll just do the rest before I do anything else. Okay, so here we are with our card sample. This is so straightforward and easy. Let's get started right away by just flipping the center or the artworks over. And then I don't think I added the inner sentiments to these card piles. I can go back and help you do that. So I'm going to nest this. I'll nest the cute little flip-flops. I'll nest this. Okay. Then I think for this, I'm gonna glue the narrow piece onto the wider piece, and I'll just eyeball this. It's 1/8 of an inch separate. All right, so now this strip here is gonna go 1 inch up from the bottom edge of this panel. So I'm just gonna use my grid ruler to make that happen. So 1 inch, that's 8 cubes on the ruler. That's gonna put that right through the center. Next, I'll add some adhesive to this panel and nest it onto this panel because it's all about the panels. And then finally, we get to do this one. I'll plop that on the folded card base. Now, to add these sentiments, and you want to make sure they're centered and level. So I think the best way to do that is to make sure we start out with the center first. So I'm going to remove those. I'll grab my ruler again. And if we just line it up, it's an 8-inch ruler. So it's going to be right on the edge of the printed panel and 3/8 of an inch up from the bottom edge. So that's 1, 2, 3 cubes. And then we can just make sure he is right in the center. And if I read it on the left and the right, the measurement there in both cases is 1 1/8. You could use foam adhesive circles if you wanted to give this a little extra dimension. And then I can just add adhesive to these last 2 pieces. And then I'll just get my ruler back here. And what I'm looking for is 1/4 of an inch or 2 cubes from the 2 cubes from the one next door. Tends to look really good. 1, 2. Give a little bit more space here on the outer ends. Okay, before I add an embellishment, I'm gonna put the innies in. I forgot to do that for all those cards. That's okay. I'm gonna take this one because it's horizontal. And I'm gonna place this, I'll put it here. In fact, now I see that I did use this guy, so I'll go ahead and grab him too. And I'm gonna put this one here, and then this kind of overlapping on that. And for the sentiment, I pick, "You are the flip to my flop," because there's a really cute flip-flop on the outside image there. So I'll place that here, Plenty of room to write your name, and that will fit into the envelope. But before we do that, I'm going to show you a cute little way to embellish this. So I'm going to grab a piece of this ribbon, and if you want to make a swallow's tail, just fold the ribbon in half lengthwise and then cut a V. It'll make a V in one swoop. You can do the same thing on the other end. This is about a 2.5-inch piece of ribbon. And then you can take some of the jute that came in your kit. And if you want, you could do this before you cut the ribbon, but then just tie the jute onto the larger ribbon to make a little crease in the center. And if you're mailing a card, sometimes it's nice if you don't have to deal with a big knot, because the larger the ribbon is, the bigger the knot's going to be. So just by using jute, you kind of take away some of that bulk that can cause problems at the post office. You can take a moment and tie a bow if you want, or if you're not in the mood for tying a bow, you just snip it. And then if you have your little favorite adhesive, again, it could be bookbinding glue, it could be a glue line, it could be score tape, whatever you have on hand, you can attach that right there. And that's a super sweet addition to this card. Isn't that fun? I'll show you the other ones in the set. Let's see. This one, you can see I took the time to tie a bow. I must have been in a good mood at that moment, or a patient mood. And then I've got the 2 vertical. So let's talk about those sentiments, because I never really distributed them. So in this vertical, I did Happy Everything, added a little Dazzle shell sticker there. Here we have the You Are the Flip to My Flop again, because I had a flip-flop on this one. And here I used Happy Everything on the inside. And check out the Dazzle sticker. Isn't that fun? I love that. And I think the best way to use that is with a tweezers. I'll show you on this card. So we have 4 of these wave strips here. So if you just grab that on the tip of the edge, pull back, and then you can add it. You'll have to snip maybe a little excess off. You can always do that with a craft knife if you need to, but you get the idea. That's really fun. It always adds a little sparkle, a little brightness to the card. So congratulations, I'm so proud of you for making it to the end of this video. All that you have left to do now is to follow the pattern of the sample card that you made for all 3 styles, and you'll be done. So if you plan to attend a crop or something soon, you could always just pack up your cards with all the prep. Make sure you have plenty of adhesive, maybe some tape, scissors, and you're set to go. Well, I hope you loved the Cabana Card Kit. If you did, I just want to mention we also have a page kit that you can grab and make scrapbook pages or other books and projects with our page kits. And remember that Club Scrap is a membership. I mean, anyone can shop, but members always save. So consider a membership to Club Scrap if you don't already have one. And before you go, it's absolutely free to hit the like button and leave me a comment. I always love to hear from you. I look forward to seeing you again in another Club Scrap workshop. Thanks for joining me.